Okay, I'll go ahead and start the meeting this evening. Welcome everybody to our Planning Commission for May 4th, 2022. My name is Commissioner Hanson. I'm the current chair of the Planning Commission. We do have one commissioner that's on its way, Commissioner Anderson, but we'll start the meeting without him. First, what we'll do is have a prayer by Commissioner Mitchell, followed by a Pledge of Allegiance, and I will go ahead and lead everybody in that at that time.
Our dear Father in heaven, we're grateful to be here this evening. We're thankful for the opportunity we have to have this meeting tonight. We're grateful for this area that we live. We're grateful for our local leaders, our state leaders, and leaders of our nation. We pray for each of them that Thou would continue to bless them as they navigate through the challenges of our day. We're thankful for those who serve our city, and we're grateful for the many blessings we enjoy in this part of the world. We pray that would help us as we go through our items tonight, that we can do so in a orderly fashion, and we thank Thee in this we pray for, and do so in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. Would you all please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Commissioners. The first item on the agenda this evening is to approve the agenda. If you've had a chance to take a look at it and there are no changes, I'll look for a motion to approve it, or if there are any changes that need to be noted, please do so.
Ms. Schill, I would propose that we approve the minutes for this evening's meeting.
Agenda first.
Agenda.
There we go.
How you doing?
This is Bullock. I'll second.
I've got a first and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Aye. All right, the agenda is set as is for this evening. Now we'll get to Commissioner Schill's favorite part, approval of the minutes. This would be for our previous meeting, April 20th. I will be abstaining. I was not in attendance, but those of you that were in attendance, if you had a chance to review those, if you have any questions or comments at this time, otherwise I'll look for a motion there as well.
Go ahead.
This is Commissioner Tupou. I move to approve the minutes for April 20th, 2022.
This is Commissioner Mitchell, and I second.
All right, I've got a first and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And one abstention from Commissioner Hanson. The minutes are approved from April 20th. At this time, declaration of any abstentions or conflicts with agenda items from any of the commissioners this evening?
None.
No?
No.
Doesn't look like there is any. We'll move to the first item on the agenda. This is a preliminary plat. This is also a public hearing for consideration and recommendation to the City Council for Dennett East Industrial Phase 2. It's located at approximately 1680 East Washington Dam Road. The applicant is Dennett Construction. I'll turn the time over to staff for their report.
Thank you, Commissioners. Eldon Gibbs, City Planner. The applicant is requesting approval of a preliminary plat for the Dennett East Industrial Phase 2 subdivision. This subdivision is proposing 9 lots on an area covering 10.77 acres. The zoning designation at this location is Industrial 2. The surrounding zoning is I-1 to the north, planned unit development residential to the east, and I-2 to the south and west. The subdivision is in the hillside overlay zone. The applicant did submit the required hillside application and met with the committee. The committee determined that this did not warrant their approval here or recommendation for approval. The proposed subdivision conforms to the approved zoning. The request meets the subdivision requirements and other city ordinances as it relates to this location. And staff has reviewed the request and recommends approval with conditions of the preliminary plat as outlined. Staff recommends that the Planning Commission recommend approval of the preliminary plat for the Dennett East Industrial Phase 2 subdivision to the City Council based on the following findings and subject to the conditions in your report. And I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have at this time.
Thanks, Eldon. Commissioners, any questions for staff?
So that flag that comes in 50 feet wide, I guess that's big enough. And are they going to have access to the lots going into this?
They will not have access. That road just supports this Phase 2 development.
And there's only one other access coming in off of that 19th, correct?
1340
Or
south.
whatever, yeah.
Yeah, will be the second, yes.
At this time, commissioners, if you have any other questions, hold on to them. I'm going to open this up. This is a public hearing. For those of you here in the audience that would like to have a say and speak your, not your mind, that's not right. If you have any comments or suggestions, questions regarding this project, please take this opportunity to do so. When you come to the microphone, please state your name for the record. It doesn't appear that anybody would like to speak on this particular item. I'll look for a motion to close the public hearing from the commissioners.
This is Commissioner Bullock. I make a motion to close the public hearing.
Jill, I second.
I've got a first and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, the public hearing is now closed. I'll open it up, commissioners, for any additional questions or comments.
This is Commissioner Bullock. I don't know who to address this to, but the public street coming in off of Washington Dam Road, shouldn't it be 60 feet in an industrial area? Because when you drive up Sand Hill Boulevard and there's two semis parked next to each other, you're not going to, it's hard getting a truck through there.
Yeah, typically we would have a wider street, but because this was property that was purchased and already in place exactly for this street, we agreed to a narrower right-of-way for this, with the understanding that if any development on lots on either side, any future development, they will have to widen the street. But we also are making that this is no parking along this segment.
Both of those are already developed.
Yeah, any additional development of those lots.
Okay, but we're gonna have cars parked on here because this is shutting K&J still right here to the south or to the west off and taking 55 feet basically of their road. And part of their driveway going in. Their cars will now park along this street because there's no more parking up front.
Yeah, this is to be,
So I just-
1710 will be no parking.
Okay.
You hope. So is that a property line, that dotted line just to the top of the road, of that flag road? Is that property line? Or what is that dotted line?
I'm not sure what this one here, dotted line up above, a little higher there, Drew, right there.
It's an elevation change.
Is that,
Yeah. I don't believe that's a property line, but
yeah, this property line, that's kind of useless property, but
there is something there, but it goes right through the building that's existing.
out of kilter.
Guess I better turn that on. Sorry, Melody. I was going to get that voice. Turn your microphone on. This was dedicated years and even before I started working here in the early 2000s. And back then, that was a size of road they probably had them dedicate or, make that lot. It's not been dedicated, will be in this plat, but they told them at future, when this goes back, that was probably the minimum at the time. So it's hard for the city to tell them, this is what you needed then, and then to come back and say, you got to go pick up more feet. So that's why the no parking is going to there and be on there, on that 60, on the 55, no parking at all.
Can we do that on Sand Hill Drive too?
I would love to do that down Sand Hill Drive, but that's not
So is
John
there
or
going
my
to be any
decision, but-
improvements, gutter? Is there going to be fencing required, anything like that?
There's no fencing required, but it'll be a typical cross-section with curb gutter. There's sidewalk on one side through this segment.
It'll have to be fenced. K&J opens
Here's your,
up and there's
Councilman,
all their equipment there.
Commissioner, here's your cross section on your street. You can see there's sidewalk on the one side over here. Just on that street going up and down. The other one has sidewalk on both sides,
The
the
rest-
other two.
Yep, the rest of the subdivision will have sidewalk both sides.
Yeah.
Because of the narrowness of this, we agreed to what's sidewalk on one side. Yes, west side.
So is there a hillside issue, or are we okay on that?
The damage was done years ago. That's what we took the hillside committee up there, and it's all reclamation at this point. And they just basically gave some things, on this, let's just keep the slopes to this, that. And so that's what the design came out to be on this. But when they got up there, we had this property and the property to the east of this, because we actually, they were in there grading all over. It's BLM property. They contracted with a local guy to pull dirt out of there, and nobody bothered to let us know what they were doing. But this has been going on for years. I know that Commissioner Bullock's probably seen that going on up there. They've just been cutting in, but it's BLM land, which then this piece, it was all flattened out years ago. So it was more damage control than new construction that the hillside could put conditions on. But in this case, it was just, we have this issue here, and let's do the best we possibly can with what was done.
My only other concern on this is that roundabout.
Big enough?
Yeah, because you're going to have semis in there. I mean, this is
It's
not,
designed to meet our fire standard, which is 96 foot of paved surface.
okay, but
No, that,
I know semis are bigger than a fire truck,
yeah,
but
Yeah, that's our required.
that's our code. Okay, that's what I wanted to know. That's,
Yeah.
because it's a mess. It will be.
Yes,
they'll probably only go up there once with the full semi, then they'll go to a smaller.
No, they won't.
I like to think positive.
So this is Commissioner Mitchell. Is there, and maybe it's not in this stage, but the water retention, obviously there's gonna be a lot of water flowing down that 1710 east. Is that a concern?
yeah. Each of the lots as they develop will have to meet their stormwater regulations and stuff. That's how a lot of the commercial developments like these and industrial, that's how they set it up, is each individual lot will meet their requirements.
What's the hatched area on 1340 South, just to the north?
Let's see if I find common area, slope area. That's what it's labeled right there on the
Okay, sorry,
the plat, so-
I didn't see that. No. So
so
that'll just
no
be desert.
retention,
That'll
right?
just be desert landscape.
Yeah. They'll use it as, landscape area, probably some type of slope protection on it.
Well, I think, this is Sheila, I think it's a little funky, but it's a mess there right now. I don't know, maybe this will clean it up. I don't know.
I think it's a good addition. I just worry about the traffic patterns with everything that's going to go in there, and then who's going to maintain that common area? That would be my question. Is there an HOA with this? Who maintains this common area? Or is it just going to be dirt?
I haven't
It'll
seen
have to
any
be,
HOAs.
it'll have to be an HOA. So all the property owners, it's just like a residential one, but it'll be an industrial one. They'll all have to be responsible for that.
Is he required to have CCNRs, or is it, because I haven't seen any CCNRs that he's done on anything that he's done.
I don't know if they're required to have those. They just need to say that, you know, I mean, an HOA could have a one paragraph just says that, you know, we, the owners, will
It says it
be
right
in
there.
charge and maintain. And
It says it right there in the general notes. So
When there's common area or areas that won't be privately owned, we require the evidence of creation of an association and evidence of some form of governing document to define how they're going to operate.
So we'll note number 4 right there.
that's
Over
why we
that.
put number 4 in all of our plats. Exactly.
Okay, that's what I was curious about.
That's my office. That's one of my main functions on plats and final plats is we make sure that those documents have been submitted, that they're in existence
Okay.
before they get approved.
All right, cool.
Commissioners, any other questions? I'll look for a motion on item number 4A.
This is Commissioner Bullock. I make a motion we approve the preliminary plat for Dennett East Industrial Phase 2 subdivision located at approximately 1600 East Washington Dam Road, and send this on to City Council with the 2 findings and 13 recommendations.
Is Commissioner
Conditions,
Tupou?
sorry.
I second that.
Okay, I've got a motion by Commissioner Bullock. I have a second by Commissioner Tupou. Individual voting, Commissioner Bullock.
Aye.
Shield.
I'm gonna vote nay. I have a hard time with not really seeing CCNRs or HOA on this. I look at White Sage and the issues up there with parking and on the street. So that's my reasoning.
Commissioner Tupou.
Aye.
Commissioner Mitchell.
Aye.
Commissioner Hanson. I'm an aye as well. The motion passes. We'll send that to City Council with our recommendation for approval. Item number 5A. This is also a public hearing for consideration and recommendation to City Council for a zone change request Z-2206 from MH to PUD-C located approximately 51 Turner Drive, 50 West and 100 North. The applicant is Tom and Sarah of the Rockworth Company. I'll turn the time over to staff for their report.
Thank you, Commissioners. As stated, the applicant's requesting approval of a zone change of approximately, and I have been corrected, it is 11.22 acres. The property is currently a mix of mobile home, PUD, and R3 zoning designations. The applicant's wishing to have the property rezoned to a planned unit development residential zoning designation under the multifamily standards. The PUDR request is for the purpose of developing, again, 11.22 acres into an apartment complex in the form of 58 one-bedroom units and 122 three-bedroom units. This would be a total of 180 dwelling units throughout the development project, equaling, and again, I have to adjust the density ratio is actually a 16.04 on the 11.22 acres. The surrounding zoning of the proposed development is open space, which is the I-15 corridor to the north, R16 to the east, R3 and C2 to the west and south. The allowed density according to the general plan use map is 13 to 16 dwelling units per acre, and they fall in the high density residential designation. The plan unit development standards allow for an increase of units that meet criteria as outlined in the ordinance. The developer at the time when I had it at the 9 needed to get some credits. They still have the credits on the map, so they don't need an additional 2.9, they need an additional 0.4. But they have increased the landscape open space from the minimum required. And so they're well above, because they picked up 3 dwelling units per acre versus the 0.4. So they're well within that with the extension of the landscape, extra landscape. That they're taking advantage of. I'm losing my words there. The project required for the parking required for the project would be 308 stalls for the apartment units and an additional 52 stalls for required visitor parking for a total of 360 required parking stalls. The applicant is showing 376 stalls, which includes 102 garage stalls. The garages, or if you've seen some of the elevations in your packet, are at the bottom level and on the back side of many of the units. So they have 102 garage stalls, 86 covered parking stalls. With that, there will be a remaining of 188 open parking stalls. The applicant is showing sufficient parking for the apartment units. Staff is supportive of the project at this location, with the building layout and exterior finishes being aesthetically attractive. The amenities are sufficient and will be of value to the project. The landscape open space and also the natural open space areas will make this a valued project within the city. Keep in mind this borders the Mill Creek, I should just say Mill Creek, on that east side there. So which will add an attractive area as well to it. Therefore, with that being said, staff recommends that the Planning Commission recommend approval of Z-22-06 for the zone change request from the current mobile home, planned unit development, and multifamily residential zoning designations to the proposed zoning of planned unit development residential, and again, utilizing the multifamily standards. And this would be on to the City Council based on the findings and subject to the conditions in your report. Now, before I turn it over, I just wanted to scroll through and show you the rest of the exhibits, or let the public that is here for the item to see them as well. This is just a layout again of the buildings and the parking, kind of just black and white, two-dimensional form. The next page shows kind of the topography of those lines that you see going through. This exhibit's much like the first exhibit. And then this is how they'll be taking care of the landscaped areas. All the orange area will basically be a rock mulch with trees and shrubs and plants. The green areas will actually be grass. Now again, the city's not looking for more grass in today's climate of water. If you've been following the city, we're trying to especially adopt a new landscape ordinance. We're trying to keep people from planting grass, period, as much as possible. But we know in certain places it's a needed and necessary thing, but we just like to keep that at very small scales. So the green areas are actually grass. The orange beige area is just landscaped again with a rock mulch base intermixed with trees, shrubs, bushes throughout, as you see here in the exhibit. So, and again, this is above and beyond the required, for that landscape open space areas. And they kind of gave you some ideas of the shrubs and plants they'll be using there in your exhibit in the pages there. The last one shows you the units. There'll be all the minimum of 3 stories. And now, again, as we look at this, we don't call it a 4-story when you have kind of it's not a walkout in this case, but it's a garage. So on especially these 2 on the right-hand side, the 3-story will be the units that you look at when you walk up to them, where the front doors will be, etc. The back side will just be accessed by garage only, and it'll have the appearance of a 4th story. But again, they meet the height standards within our multifamily. And so this just gives you a sample of, and then the unit with the C detail is actually a 2-story with a garage and actual floor area where the The ones that are kind of a 3/4 story have storage or no storage, as you can see in the different exhibits here on these cross sections. Get into the, again, the exterior finish on the building. So it'll be a mix of kind of a hardy board finish with stone and stucco throughout. Again, this is the units that have the 3-story with the parking in the back. If you look below, this is kind of what the 2 stories look like with the parking around the back as well. The live picture versus the drawing. So here's the sample of your products. Again, the manufactured stone veneers, the fiber cement, again, that horizontal and vertical siding, stucco, and then they have actually a fiber wood grain, which is not a new product, but it's being more utilized. So there's a variety of good different finishes on this, so it's not stale. So with that, commissioners, that's my report to you. I'll be glad to answer any questions you have for me before you open up your public hearing.
Drew, this is Commissioner Bullock. On Building J, it shows that there's the carports in that section. Are those carports, is that the dotted right there? Yeah, where you're.
Yeah.
And so is it that way on Building I too?
Yeah, but I think, well, we'll have the applicant come up, and I'm going to probably guess that Building J is a 4-story, and I bet Building
I see it. Never mind.
I will be a 2-story with a driveway.
Okay, but there is parking in front of.
Yeah, that's the
every one of these.
driveways to go into the underground.
Okay.
I wouldn't call it underground parking, the garages.
Okay.
And then you'll have an elevation change coming around to the fronts.
Okay, that's what I was wondering about. I didn't see, until you mentioned it, I didn't see that. I was worried about parking for those units.
Yeah, every one of them has, you can see a drive, driveways into under the parking, the garages underneath, and then they'll walk around, or they'll probably be able to enter in through their garages, I would imagine. We'll have them clarify that, but I imagine that's what they are.
All right, commissioners, any other questions, initial questions for staff?
This is Commissioner Mitchell. A question that comes to mind for me. So 500 West is the only entrance or exit, correct? And
Yeah, theoretically that would be, we'll pull that up here in a
I'm
second.
trying to visualize in my mind. There's not a light at that intersection, right, of Telegraph and 500 West?
Not yet.
That was just a thought that I had, the potential traffic flow.
Now, I hate to kind of bring it up, but you can Vincent Lane through here if under emergency circumstances could be taken, and then through the Coles, in case something happened here that blocked, they could utilize Vincent Lane on the backside of the pharmacy, et cetera, and by that tower, and then come in.
Commissioner Mitchell, this is, as you know, is a redevelopment. So if this was a development of an untouched parcel, we'd have more ability to exact things on access than we are able to now. To a certain degree, they're essentially grandfathered in with one access, which we might look at differently. We're at fresh raw land. But Drew said no light yet. I do know that that's an intersection that gets looked at on the studies of when and where lights will be needed, and staff is privy to studies that are trying to improve the function of roads and lights in that area, and one of those studies looks at that intersection as well. And so I don't think we can require a light together with this redevelopment project, but you're right that I don't want to say it's a danger. It's an intersection that's hard to use in all directions. It really flows 2 ways, and the rest of it just kind of hopes that they can get through. And we're looking at it and hoping to improve it.
What would warrant the stoplight going in there?
First, yes, this intersection is on our master transportation plan for a signal. So the warrants will be, additional traffic, any additional accidents, additional developments such as this that go in and provide more traffic through that intersection.
So this will help expedite.
This will help expedite.
Yeah,
Yeah.
a new lights there.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that red dot indicates, like I say, we have a thing on our schematic over here and traffic signals, and everywhere there's a red dot that's kind of planned for, just waiting for what they call the warrants. Don't know where that word came from, but I'm sure it means something real specific. But
All our
but
fun
this
little
is
gobbledygook that we come up
Yeah.
with.
but this one's been on the radar for a long time. It
Attorneys
just
love
has to
that
meet the
word.
numbers. They do calculations. Sometimes what pushes warrants up, I understand, also are accidents. Unfortunately, they use those as part of the warrants. So if you want it quicker, go out there, and if you have an old beat up
If I can
car,
borrow
feel
your
free to
truck.
donate it. No, but they do calculate that. Accidents that may happen at a constant helps make those warrants and the volume that go through them.
But the additional dwellings back there is going to have a major impact on it.
Will have a major impact, yes.
Okay.
Commissioners, any other initial comments for staff?
I have a question. This is Commissioner Tupou. Usually for a subdivision that has 60 homes, we require 2 exits. Isn't that right? And then this has a lot more. This would have way more people. So, and there's only one way out of there.
Well, technically there are 2.
There are 2.
You have to go through again under emergency service, circumstances. We could end up going through that way. It's not like somebody would block you off from that parking lot. And again, sometimes a secondary one, it has to be, just meet emergency. There's times we let them even put a gate on it, a crash gate, with a Knox box. But again, it gets back to what our city council was telling you, is that you have a situation here of an already existing development, and they're taking out an old undesirable development, putting in a more desirable development. So it's not like it's brand new. It's what we call infill. So we do the best we can on that. And again, my concerns would be more heightened if I didn't have that Vincent, that I showed you on that one map. If that wasn't there, I'd have a more uncomfortable, say, well, let's only give them the number of units that were in the mobile. In fact, they may have less than, I don't know how many mobile homes are in there. Maybe we'll find out soon what that difference is. But with that, Vincent Lane still helps some of my heartburn, because it is open all the time, and it is a way to get in and out under a absolute emergency type scenario.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Commissioners. At this time, any additional questions, hold on to those for just a minute. I'll open this up to a public hearing on item number 5A. If anybody here in the chamber would like to speak on this item, please come to the pulpit and remember to state your name for the record. And if possible, try to keep your comments to 3 minutes.
George Staley. It's going to be hard to keep my comments to 3 minutes, so I've got several concerns. We own the property along the east side of the project. It goes into the creek. That project has 2 and maybe 3 floodplains in it. We've already been damaged by the city allowing subdivisions going to the north because it creates more water into the creek. And also the new bridge that they put in. We've owned that property for 100 years. For 80 years, our family turned cows in it because of a very flat bottom. The creek was only about 1 or 2 inches into the water from the banks. Because they put that narrower bridge in, the water has to raise a lot higher before it can go through. And it backs sand up on our place. And it's cut this ditch, or the creek, about 8 or 9 feet deep. so we don't have a beautiful flat area anymore. I'm concerned that if more water comes down and goes out into the creek, it's going to create a wash there also, just like it has down below where it comes off the apartments below. I don't know if I should address all these things here in public or whether I should come in and address them at another time. So that's up to you, what you want me to do.
What my recommendation, George, would be to you is to give us the short version this evening so it's on the record. City Council has a chance to review these, and then I would invite you back to.
Okay, I need to know where the creek, that's not turned in any direction that I can really see it.
You'll see there, George, the floodplain line at the upper right that's in red and blue. You'll see those lines there on the monitor.
This here is our property line right here, and it goes up to up there. This is the floodplain. The creek, I can't even see where it is, but it comes down through here. So any water that runs off of here would come out in one place. Now they're putting this fence along here. They're going to have to create a place where it comes out in one place instead of as it did before on long wide area. The creek now that's here has washed about 8 or 10 feet deep instead of being flat like it was. So if the retention pond fills up, where is that water going to go? Is it going to go into this here, and out into their place, and cut another gully in here just like it has down here, where we can't do anything with? I don't know. Those things have got to be addressed. I'm also concerned that, excuse me.
Only because she can't hear you, and we want to get it on the record because that's the.
I'm also concerned with the size of sewer pipe that runs down through the creek by putting another 181 units into that. In the past, with just a trailer car that's plugged up and the raw sewage is run out on their property, and the city has to come down and clean it up. They've had to raise manholes down there because now the flood runs different, that it goes down into the manholes. So they raise some of the manholes 3 feet, some of them 4 feet. And it's what that does is just create a deeper gully for us. And so we can't use property that we've used. We don't have any rights to the creek, but the family has used that for either grazing or for activities in the last 20 years. We've used it for over 100 years. And since they built so many new places up above and the apartments behind, it's changed the area completely where we can't use it anymore. So now we've got a dead space that we have to maintain that we can't use like we used to use. And I'm getting concerned that this might, I love the project because it's nice. And it'll be a lot nicer for us to look at it. And I'm not against the project itself. I'm just against things that we got to look at before we really decide whether we're going to allow that many units there. I don't care if there's 1,000 units there that look nice, as long as the sewer takes care of it. The flood plain, there's 3 flood plains in that project. As long as that water's maintained and doesn't come down and create bigger floods and wash part of our property out. Those are, in a nutshell, those are the concerns that I have.
Okay.
And since the new bridge has been put in there, like I say, the old bridge was about 3 times as wide so the water could run a foot deep, and now it runs 10 feet deep to get the same amount of water through. And it's created really a lot of trouble for us. Another thing that I'm really concerned about, when the trailer cart was there, and this same thing will happen, those kids cut through our property all the time to get to school. They'd put bridges across their creek. they would go down and make forts in our property, because all kids do that. And it's going to be the same type of thing. And now there's going to be many more kids in there, and I don't know where they're going to go, if they can walk 1 block through our property or 5 blocks around to catch the bus. You know, those are things that concern me and my property.
Okay.
I mean, that's kind of a nutshell, but there's a lot of other things that I've got questions about, you know, things that,
Yeah.
but those things should all be addressed before this is approved, in my opinion. Thank you.
Thank you.
I promised Jason I'll be nice tonight. I'll try anyway.
Oh, you have given me nightmares since the last meeting, I gotta be honest.
No, I'm the one that had the nightmares.
I still feel bad, I should say. I really do.
Well,
It wasn't meant to be.
Let's call it an even.
Okay. All right.
I'll try not to get as emotional tonight.
You gotta tell everybody who you
My
are.
sister passed away that night, and I was here instead of over there with her. So
I had no idea. I apologize.
that's what I say. We'll have to let that be gone.
All right. Please state your name for the record. Everybody wants to know
Catherine
who you are.
Staley, and I own above George, my brother-in-law, just above him. I've talked to several of the neighbors. None of them could be here tonight, and they asked me to ask questions. Number one, are these low-income rentals? Do you know?
We're gonna
Is
ask.
this-
We'll find out.
Okay.
We're not allowed to use that as a land use factor, just so you
Well,
know.
it's just more or less, they want to know if it's going to help the younger people have a place to rent, not as this low income. I don't know how else you say that.
Yeah, but I know where you're going, and if we know that, we'll share it, but we can't use that as a factor in our land use
Well,
decision.
I'm just giving you my list. And the sewer problem did come up because we've had many times when we've had a flood and then we've had raw sewage. And it's in my backyard. And we've had the city people come and they've told us, you know, that we got to take care of this. You've got sewer water in your backyard. The light on Telegraph, you can't insist this go in before the project goes in. Has anyone tried to come out there and turn left? Do you go fast? No, it's really, you know, if I ever come that way, it's like, oh, what was I thinking? I'll never get out.
All I know is that left turn's more difficult when I've got a Sonic shake in my hand.
Maybe that's what I had.
It's
that
even
day.
harder when I've just visited Sonic.
But
yeah.
there is kind of a blind spot where the bridge
More than kind of. There's a blind spot because of the descent.
dips, and you think you're good, and then you get halfway out and you're not. And that was brought up by several of the neighbors. My big thing is I'm like George. I have no problem with the project, except for the point that I raised a lot of kids in my backyard that weren't mine for 40 years. So as the kids got older in the Turner place, that, you know, they didn't come over and spend time in my backyard, but I'd go out and they'd be on my swings and on my trampoline. The problem is if someone was to get hurt, then it's my problem. And my concern is, in listening to what you've said, is this grandfathered in to the point they don't have to have a fence or a wall?
I was talking about their access. So the road access, so, you know, on a brand new piece of land, like something that maybe is zoned down in the fields that's been farmed for 100 years, we get to talk about its ingress and egress in a different way than a redeveloped piece that's essentially being returned to the same use that it used to be for a long time.
But these aren't trailers.
We don't look at whether it's a trailer. We look at what type of use it is. This is a residential use and the same type of use it used to be. more or less residential.
So there will not be fences and will not be walls?
I'm not talking about fences. I was talking about access. So the grandfather rights are about access and ingress and egress and the nature of use.
Okay, but I'm concerned that I'm going to have a lot of kids in my backyard again.
Condition number 6 is for block walls will be required along the north and east boundary of the development.
For somebody that's
Northeast,
North and east.
north and east.
You're east.
Okay, I
Freeways
know
on the
I'm
north.
east, so I'll take that.
Yep, okay, that's a condition.
Okay.
you should know that fences are more attractive than trampolines, though. Like fences aren't going to help with kids. They help with
They
animals.
don't climb walls as well as they do fences. They can find a way around them. Like George said, for years, well, we even had a huge fire in our backyard because
Yeah, I
the
think
kids came and
I
had a
think
little camp out.
the challenge with your backyard is not you; it's that there's a creek down there, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, kids are kids. My kids were kids once too. So I'm just concerned about that and that many more kids. So that's all I have. Thank you.
Thanks, Catherine.
George, we'll let other people come up before we do seconds. Unless no one else
Is
is
there
coming
anybody else that
up.
would like to come up for the record? All right, George.
One of them I forgot to talk about, but where they come out onto Telegraph, that's an illegal street. All the streets should be 90 degrees, and those don't come in at 90 degrees. And so the city's got to look at that, and you look at how you're going to put a light on that street the way it's designed now. It's almost impossible because of the way the street's designed. Another one, I want to ask you, Mr. Slegg-Miller, read number 5 on this.
What is
Always say
this?
it's the same use, but number 5, it doesn't change from the same use to the same use. You say you can't do things because it was existing things and there's a lot more units, but it's not changing to the same type of like you said, it's not the same use from Z2207 from C1 to PUD. Is that whatever that is?
Planned unit development residential. It's the same use classification. I mean, you and I can agree that people live there in their homes, and that if this is built, they'll live there in their homes, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, as far as the capacity and all those things, you're right. It's not identical, but we're looking at a property that once had high density residential with a single street in and a single street out.
High density residential.
It doesn't. I was talking about what it used to be.
No, but it changed from this to this.
I'm not sure what 5 you're talking about,
Yeah,
George. Can you elaborate on 5?
Yeah,
Yeah, but I'm looking at, if you're looking at condition number 5,
I'm looking at it's B. I'm blind. I'm sorry. It's right here.
right. That's why we're doing a zone change. That's why we're here tonight.
What I'm saying, you're changing the zone to a completely different zone than what it was. It wasn't high density zone before, even though it may have been used for that.
Yeah, we're changing it from high density straight zoning.
Where's the C1, the PUDC? Where's that high
That,
density?
you're looking at the wrong one then on that.
We're changing it from, so George, the benefit of a PUD is we as a city get to talk about the look, the feel, the way it sits. We get to tell them details about their high density development. They went from high density straight zone, which means once they have approval under that zoning, the only limit they have is units per acre. They can do it in whatever look, whatever style, whatever layout, and you know what it used to be like.
Yeah, I'm not arguing that.
This has given us the chance to talk about the buildings, how they look, how they feel, the amenities and everything
That's
else.
all I'm saying is where it's changed from this to a really much higher density, then you should be able to address egress and egress because it really creates a lot more traffic through one place. And you say Vincent Lane, where's Vincent Lane on there? Can you show me on the? It says you could go out Vincent Lane. Where is Vincent Lane?
Vincent Lane, well, let me zoom in a little farther.
Okay, but you have to come, don't you have to come out here before you can go that way? Or you have to come out of the trailer court with one egress and travel 100 yards or so before you can turn on?
You're absolutely correct.
Then you don't have two egresses on it. You only got one that goes 100 yards.
Okay, we get it. Yeah, I understand what you're saying, and we've talked about that already in our discussions. I think they have that as part of their understanding. I know they do because that's what we've
but,
already been asked.
You
So.
know, I hear things that are big concerns that I don't know if you're or if you're addressing them or not, because you're going to create problems even though you say they can do it. Doesn't make sense.
Looks to me like they can come, if they came down Fifth West, they could turn over on Vincent Lane, which would be on the on the side of Royal Tie, basically. Come down around there and hit that other road by Discount Tire. They could do a right in, right out there.
Got three ways in essence.
Right.
Yeah, but that doesn't take them into the project, the egress they gotta travel before they get to make a right there over towards Cole. Strip there, while these storage units are on one side, and those apartments are on the other side. So you only have one egress out until you get to Vincent Lane, and I think it would probably be 100 yards, I don't know for sure, before you'd have two. So if that was blocked there, if a fire lane got there, there would be no way for the fire truck to get in if there was an accident in that 100 yards.
George, thanks for your time. Your comments have been noted for the record. I know there's a city council person that's hearing this, and they all have the opportunity to read it, and you'll have everyone here will have the opportunity as well to attend the city council meeting when this comes before them, and we'll give that date.
Is it possible to have a work committee meeting with somebody before then? I don't want to have to go and talk for an hour and tell all of my concerns.
Right. What I would say is, as somebody who is new to this area and listening to what you're saying and listening to what has been set up here, I think that this is my opinion. We're seeing this from two different angles. It's not that one's right and one's wrong. Neither have I. I'm just saying that I think that one of my questions for staff after the closing of the public hearing was going to be, we're up here as an appointed commission that has different elements in the business world. What I rely heavily on is what the city staff does and the city brings to us. And so some of our questions will ask staff some of the things that you've talked about. I would have no idea about the water over there at your place if they did something that would affect your property. Is why I have to rely on city staff. And so a lot of our questions will come to the staff where they have the opportunity to say, yes, this is going to be fixed, this is looked at. And if it's not, then absolutely, I would say, yes, there should be some sort of a halt until these things can be mitigated and discussed, because we're not trying to create additional problems, but there's many questions that need to be asked by us as well, or at least for me as well. And I'll speak for the other commissioners. So, right.
Time to discuss all these unless I go before the council. That's all I'm saying is I'd like the opportunity to present the things that I have that your staff has addressed, you know what I'm saying? And that's why you have public hearings, is so we can come and tell what our concerns are. And I feel like, that I have enough concerns that haven't been addressed, only listened to, and no answers change it, but I'm concerned about that one entrance in and out because, the fires, with 180 units, that's a big area. That many cars going in and out of that. How wide is that road?
George, if you're gonna speak, can you go to the microphone, please? Thank you.
You can't be in this debate.
George, while you're coming up, I just want to say this as well. Something you just said. What our role to this point has been to listen. So we haven't had a chance to respond. So with all due respect, you've got to at least give me a chance and the other commissioners a chance to ask our questions before you can suggest that nothing's being done on your behalf. Is there anybody else who would like to speak to this particular item on the record for the public hearing? Commissioners, I'll look for a motion to close the public hearing on item 5A.
This is Commissioner Mitchell. I make a motion to close the public hearing.
Shill, I second.
I've got a first and a second to close the public hearing. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Public hearing is now closed. Commissioners, I'm going to open the floor for any questions or comments for either the staff or a representative of the applicant or the applicant themselves if they're here as well, to address some of the issues that you might be thinking in your mind or that have been brought up this evening.
Well, this is Shill. I can't object with what we've heard. I mean, what I counted is there was approximately 60 mobile homes on the property. We're 3 times in that to 180. Do we really need to do that? I think it's a great project, and I'm all for it. I think maybe we're a little high in density. I can see doubling it to 100. And, if you go 12 units per acre, you're at about 135 units. Maybe it'll take a story off of it. I don't know. But just kind of my 2 cents. I just think we are getting a lot of congestion there. I don't disagree with that.
Commissioners, any other questions? I have a couple, just a second before, thank you. Thad, could you clarify just for me that the previous zoning, in layman's terms for me, it was high density and it still remains high density, correct? What it was used for?
Correct. It was zoned straight zoning, and this is now PUD, so it's technically a zone change. Staff is who I won't say require PD, but encourage PUD. It gives us the ability to look at the look and feel and style of everything, as well as the amenities, and so that's the zone change tonight. If the council were to turn this down, the applicant could bring something under the existing zone, and the council doesn't get to look at it for style, amenity, or any of those natures. If it conforms with the existing zone, you're obligated to give it a recommendation for approval. And so we like it when it changes to PUD. When the project that used to be there was developed, there were no PUD zones. There was no PUD zoning. It's either straight zone or open space. And so part of being in the modern era and having something be redeveloped, it gives us the chance to interact with it under this zone request. And things like density and those issues are very much within your legislative purview as to whether it's good for the area and the citizens around it.
So it sounded to me, from what my limited knowledge is on the zonings and things from being on this commission, this is a much better situation than the alternative with straight zoning is high density.
In every regard except maybe capacity, right? Except maybe density.
Okay.
This one appears to be more dense, but on every other factor, yes, we have a lot more oversight and review of this.
Okay.
Thad, the last one was, what was the zoning on it?
There's a mix of mobile home, planned unit development, and R3, which is multifamily residential.
So we're not increasing the capability of the zoning. We're just changing it to a PUD, correct?
We would rather not have a project come in under the previous existing zoning.
I know, but what I'm saying though is we're actually not really changing the zoning as
Use,
far
use kind of is what I think you're going after. It's
the density
Density.
use appears greater than it used to be, but I don't know
Zoning
for sure
before.
that they maxed it out under prior zoning.
that's what I was wondering right there.
And could they bring it and try and max out the prior zoning? Yes. And
Yeah,
if
I
they
mean-
did that under the prior zoning, we wouldn't have the same style and other review that we get under a PUD.
But the previous zoning would possibly be able to have this much in it. I mean, if they did a straight zoning the way it is.
Have we analyzed that, Drew? I haven't done that analysis, so I don't know for sure how to answer that question, just because I don't know the answer.
Okay, but I mean, that's just what everybody's talking about. That
With
was
the
question that came to my mind.
R3 and the trailer parks, there was kind of yards and some space between them, and so it's likely that they could have had greater density than they actually had. I mean, if you look at the old images there, you'll see that even though trailer parks, have their characteristics, there's usually space between them because they're just little mini houses, and folks that have a little yard in that, and so it's likely they could have accomplished greater density than they did. And if they were to come back under that same zoning, we'd have to recalculate their maxes.
It looks like it's zoned the same as the Pearl condominiums.
Yep.
well, general plan designated.
plan.
Yeah, the term was thrown out. We don't have high density zoning, but we have general plan high density. High density just means it's high density residential, and then you state a density ratio within that. And our general plan says in high density, it's 13 to 16 dwelling units per acre, somewhere in there. Our PUD allows for increases in credits if you do certain things. Well, they probably don't need any credits. They're at 16.04, but they did add 30 extra % landscaping area they could have left open and not got that credit, but they're actually going to do and landscape it out, actually put trees, shrubs, and bushes and ground cover over 30% more than what they needed to, according to the PUD zoning. So in essence, they, can get a little bit. So all they're really needing is 0.04 dwelling units per acre to get to the 180. So, but again, the high density has been there since I've been working for Washington City. It's just been a trailer park for all those years. The owner wants to put in something a little bit with more value and long-term benefit, to him, of course. And I'll have to admit, for the city, that's a better long-term benefit for us as a whole versus a trailer park. And it's not, again, I mean, I'm not trying to be bad anyway, but having this apartment complex versus the trailer park is a step up in quite a few directions.
What about protecting the homeowners that have spoken this evening about some of the water issues and things like that? Is that something I would assume that the city has looked at and that they're not concerned with, or?
Well, no, it's not being concerned. There's a detention area. It's like any development. And that's one of the first things an engineer should be looking at. I have a piece of property. I'm allowed to have the water run off at the same ratio that it was right now.
Mhm.
And if I cover more ground, I've got to find some way to hold that water for a while to meet that same runoff. Everybody's allowed that, whether it be you, me, or anybody who owns a piece of property. If I develop it, I'm allowed to have that water still run off my property, but I can't do any more runoff than what I presently have in a given time period. So that's where detention ponds come in. And in the design, you saw where they put the one, it's over in that one area. And so they're going to have to calculate what that water is coming off now versus what the trailer court was. There was X amount of water that, by history would come off. Now that they're adding more building surface, asphalt, concrete, areas like that, they have to calculate that water and see how much they have to hold in a given time and still release the same amount. So just because we're doing this doesn't mean that they're going to get more water. By theory, the engineer has to account for all that water that George was talking about. It only is going to come off at the same rate or less than the same rate.
Right.
By the new development. So sometimes new developments actually help water issues. more so than they hurt them, because they either improve it or it's the same. So it's a net zero plus or minus, or it's better because they're actually holding it and it's coming in certain areas where before it could have just shed it off anywhere. Some properties may have just been designed that way, where now they're going to gather it and bring it into one place and have it all go out in a more uniform, manner.
Given my tenure, I was expecting that exact answer. Given the other projects that we've had, that it actually would improve the water situation based on the engineering that
And that's the theory why we do have engineering done, is to improve it. But we can never let it be increased going down, on the same time. So that's just law.
What about the comment about the size of the sewer pipes? Is that something that, again, I'm assuming that the city has studied that, and the engineering and everything that needs to go into it has?
Correct. Public Works will always look at that. It's all based on the type of use. And so there's limit, engineers have already given standards they have to do, whether it be per fixture, a lot of it goes into that. I have X amount of toilets, I have X amount of sinks, I have X amount of drains of whatever. That all is calculated, and then the pipe of the size of the pipe is determined by that.
Okay.
And some of it's just based on square footage of apartments or townhomes. They've narrowed it down to any which way. So Public Works will take a look at that, make sure. And again, the sewer line, I think, is going down 500, if I'm correct, right, John? Sewer? Go through, okay. So wherever that goes, they'll have to make sure that whatever pipe is there, if it has to be increased, it has to be increased.
Okay.
So,
And all this is heavily noted, and if there's some sort of liability issue at some point in the future, this is all documented and noted and all that, correct?
right, we look at water lines, we look at sewer lines, we look at drainage, we look at, all those things come up that we just go through. I mean, that's all looked at before it ever comes to you folks.
Okay.
Before it ever makes it
Again,
to a meeting, they've got to meet the minimum checklist, and then, but they don't have to go in depth on a lot of it. They just get temporarily, like they say, okay, this is where our water's going to go. But he may not have designed that full detention until, because we don't ask them to go into that and spend a lot of money if they're not even going to get approved. If they have to give us some minimum concept that we're good with, on Public Works side, planning side, et cetera, then if it gets approved, when they get into their, what we call the construction drawings, that's where all the nuts and bolts start being tightened and everything has to fit, that way. And so they'll go up and then do the intense, size of a pipe, of a detention, of all that stuff. So,
okay. Commissioners, do you have any other comments for staff?
So this is Commissioner Mitchell. So just to clarify on the sewage, so has it been determined then that the infrastructure that's in place will carry the loads of this new?
So I just confirmed with John, the sewer line's a 14-inch line, and that the current size is sufficient size for the project that's proposed. And so Public Works is not planning for an upsize in relation to this project.
which is a great benefit. We don't have to go and tear that up, going through the creek, et cetera, that way. That's good news.
So would it be okay to ask maybe some clarification? There was the two citizens or residents that commented about having issues in the past. Is this way back before potential there were already some new infrastructure put in place since those issues, or is this current issues?
John's pipe isn't that long. It was before John's time. I don't recall when it was. Catherine and George, when was the sewer problems? I'm wondering if maybe it's been upsized since then. The sewer folks calculate all the inflow. They calculate all the inflows.
At all those places above you're talking about, so.
So we might need to. Sewer department is who you'd go talk to, George. We might need to figure out what caused the complaints in the time past.
John, if you don't mind getting with Mike and find out so we can have that answered at the city council time. I would imagine it sounds like, and it's been a couple of years, you said, since it's happened. It's just curious how that much water would get into a sewer line and have it back up. But it might have been that they found it, farther down the line, that they found, oh, all of a sudden we've had a blockage there that, we didn't know about. But well, I'll have John talk with Mike and find out what that was by then. Okay, so how far? So it really wasn't due to the trailer park. It was something beyond this place and you guys. Okay. Is this for Cottontown Village you're talking? Okay.
We,
Okay.
so commissioners, I think the best we'll do tonight is maybe just with your recommendation that issue be studied better. I don't think we're able to give you the dirty details of really what happened with the sewer in that area. We don't have, our public works representative wasn't here 3 years ago. And so we'll need to study that and include that in your comments.
Look at that history.
Commissioners, any questions? I know the applicant's here. I would invite you, if you'd like to say a few words or take some time to maybe address some of the issues that you've heard, or just maybe give us an idea so we feel a little better about what's happening.
Yeah, absolutely. My name's Adam Davis with the Rockworth Companies. The applicant and partners with the Turner families as owners of the property. First of all, I'd like to thank staff for the opportunity we've had to work with them. I know it was raised, there was some discussion early on about whether or not we come in under kind of existing zoning or go through the PUD process, and we elected to go through the PUD process, again, so there could be more oversight and we could work together with the city to make sure that we deliver a project that meets all the needs of the people involved. And so we appreciate the comments that have been shared tonight. Maybe a little bit about Rockworth Companies. We are a owner, developer, and property manager of commercial real estate based in Salt Lake City, Utah. We've been in business for over 20 years and also have a sister company, Rimrock Construction, who has built a number of units here in St. George. And as I mentioned, we're partnering with the Turners to develop this project. As an owner and a manager of multifamily apartments, we know and understand especially the needs of the residents and also trying to meet the needs of the communities in which we develop. And so what we're presenting here tonight is a Class A market rate project with all of the amenities and open space that are typically associated with these types of projects. A couple of the concerns that we've heard tonight, I think staff has done a nice job also of addressing some of these concerns within the conditions. I know there's been obviously a lot of conversation about stormwater management and retention, and we do have Rick Meyer from Bush and Gudgel, our civil engineer, here tonight if he can address any questions that the commissioners may have. But we also look to condition number 3, understanding that there will be a final drainage study, grading plan, drainage plan that will have to be approved by Public Works before we build the project. And we know and recognize that and expect that all of these concerns will be addressed through final engineering. I think a couple of the other conditions that have been concerns that have been raised that are also met by the conditions. Condition number 6, as has been pointed out, calls for a block wall along the north boundary and also along the east boundary. We're comfortable with this condition. We do have a question for staff and would like to kind of work this out. One of the things that along Mill Creek, there is plans by the city to have a future trail system. We're actually dedicating an easement along there. And so just want to make sure as we're working with staff on this wall that there's also access to the trail and we maintain access for our residents and the public and make sure that the wall is designed accordingly. So that's just, additionally, one other condition that has been raised that we'd like to point out is condition number 11. We're a little,
Scratch it.
okay. All right.
I've already scratched it.
Okay, done. I was a little confused by that, but thank you. But again, just like to thank staff for the opportunity to work with them. We do feel like we've created a project. I know there's been some questions about density. We, as Mr. Ellerman has pointed out, we're barely over the allowable density, but again, still are open to the PUD process and obviously going through the PUD process to make sure that this project is one that the city is comfortable with and that we're comfortable with as the owners. And so 16 units the acre falls under the high density requirements, and we feel comfortable with that density. I will just point out one additional concern that's been raised, and Mr. Ellerman, if you could pull up the site plan. There's been some questions about access, and it is along 500 West, but just to point out, we actually do have 2 points of access along 500 West, where the main access that comes into the roundabout, but there also is a secondary access through the project, just a little bit to the south right there. And so while we understand that 500 West is the main arterial in and out, we do have 2 points of access to the project itself. So, and with that, I'm happy to answer any questions that the commissioners may have.
This is Shill. That other access you're talking about looks to me like it runs into a building, or is that not a building there? So scroll down a little bit. Well,
No, I believe that's the property line onto 500 West right there.
where's your 2 accesses? Point them out.
See where it says 500 West,
Yeah, I know that one.
and then straight in.
Oh, they both hit 500. Right, okay. Yeah, I was thinking that coming down around there.
Oh, no, yeah, the back of the building there, no.
So this is Shill again. So 100% market rate. There's no, I can't remember what it's called, Lomar, or what's it called when you do it's not Lomar.
Moderate income, low income?
Bitech.
No, this is a 100% market rate.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
This is Commissioner Tupou. What's the price point, do you know, for your units?
I don't know the price
You don't
point at
know?
this point,
Okay.
no.
This is Shill again. It's all about the money. I mean, it's just fact of life. I still lend to the 12 per acre. That's where I lend. So I think it's just getting pretty dense.
Adam, thanks for your time. I appreciate it.
Sure. One last comment, Commissioner.
Sure.
Just to clarify, in the staff report, it calls out 1 and 3 bedrooms. They're actually a mix of 1, 2, and 3s. I think where the confusion arises is that the parking is calculated on the same for.
I'm just going off of your call out.
Yeah,
Maybe
I think that was for parking. So there will be 1, 2s, and 3 bedrooms. I just wanted to clarify that. Approximately 58 1s, 92s, and 32 3s, I believe. So,
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Drew, this is Commissioner Bullock. If you can go back to the GIS map, where Cotton Town, what is it called?
Cottontail Village.
Coles and all that. Cotton Mill number 2. That empty space right up there. If you go up by the freeway, it's just that triangle right there. Is that future growth? What is that?
That's drainage. That's a big regional drainage.
Oh, is it? Okay, that's what I was wondering. I didn't
So we,
know.
you know, because I thought the same thing. I thought, well, we'll just maybe pop through there and add another one. But that's, I am correct, right, John? It's a major drainage swell.
Okay.
And it picks up a lot of the I-15 water, if I remember right. So
Okay,
Yeah, we're
that's what I was curious about. What that was and why it was left there, just for an emergency access if they had to.
And I will just point out real quick, because we've talked about the floodplain. You know, I'll pull it up on here, but then you can see the blue areas of flood, and then the floodway you can't do anything in, but just kind of keep that in mind. And then what I want to do is pop back over here. You can see that blue line here in the layout. There's no buildings in it. So all the buildings are out of the floodplain. So it's just parking area and everything, which you can have in the floodplain. So, but no buildings are in there at all.
This is Commissioner Hanson. Of all the comments that you've heard this evening, are there any that have not been or will not be addressed and mitigated with staff either prior to or after this? Is there anything that's new that's like, oh, we didn't think of that? Or, I mean, there's answers that you guys know from meetings prior to this one where these things have been addressed. And I hear residents say things and I'm like,
No, the only thing that's popped out is we want to look into the sewer line and just see if that's been taken care of. I'm sure it has something to do, it's downstream, you know, but it would be nice to make sure that that's been already, you know, I'm sure they knew about it because that's probably the first people you guys called was the city.
They came to us. I don't know about George.
Okay. Because I remember hearing about this a while back. So I just want to make sure that they might have ran their snakes and or cameras and found out what was going on. We'll look into it and yeah. And I'm sure we'll know. We'll just get with the sewer department and find out what those things were and get the, you know, what's been addressed for them. But there's a trail system. If the trail system wasn't going through there, I would say we would not put gates in it.
Where's the trail system going?
I showed that. They were talking, and I didn't want to interrupt that. See that greenish yellow neon dotted line? That is our master trail system. If you don't like it, you can take Barry out behind the woodshed and do what you need to do. But so we have to plan for that. They're giving up land for it as on their property. So I'm not, you can talk to Barry about that, but I'm just, we're pointing out that every development that comes in, whether we like it or not, you know, that's just what we have, a master plan trail there.
Well, if you build that, put gates in it, can they be locked permanently till the trail is built?
That's what I would recommend, or they build the wall that they can put some brake lines in it that will come back later when and if, we'll put the if in there just in case, comes in, then they can just open that up and put a gate in it. I'm fine with doing that. I'll just talk with Barry about that and see what he wants to do, but that would be a quick remedy until it's there to keep the kids out of there. But if a trails system's in there, then whether making them go all around and walk through it anyway or through the gate, it doesn't matter. But until it's there, we could probably do that.
Yeah, and another thing that I'm concerned about is the floodwater that comes down used to spread out over 300 or 400 yards, so it wouldn't cut gullies. Now, if it's all taken into one place and dropped into the creek, either going to have to be piped across. I don't know, you know, I don't know if I like it piped across my property or not to run into the creek.
Yeah, I mean, I understand that point, and the only thing I'd say to that is like, because it is the Mill Creek and rivers, rivers change, we all understand that, right? Rivers change all the time. When I have water running through them, for some reason, water doesn't want to be cooperative. It likes to do what it wants to do, and many times it'll change its own flow by what's coming upstream and the volume, and we all understand that. So that would be my only, pushback to that is it's hard to say that because water events could change that too. Yeah, if somebody did do that, but they're not going into the creek, Their development is not going into the creek. Wherever it went before, they have to.
Is it safe to say the volume's going to be the same regardless of what goes there, right? We're not increasing the volume of water by.
George, let other people talk too, George. The prior development was so old that it's probably safe to say that anything's better than what used to be there, right? And even with more pavement and all of that, it didn't have much in the form of amenity or public finish. And so it's hard to say exactly what will be better, but it's safe to say that anything that gets reviewed and approved in this decade is going to be much better than something that was started in the 80s.
Hey, my name is Rick Meyer with Bush and Gudgel, and just to reiterate what Thad's saying is the current setup with the mobile home park. I don't think there's a detention pond in the mobile home park, and it's fair to say that there's a pretty high impervious area in that mobile home park. So by putting in something that's similar in the imperviousness as the mobile home park, but adding a detention pond, it's going to be a lot lower runoff than what the mobile home park was.
This project will have things like curbing, inflows, and collection locations for stormwater. Like there's a lot of stuff that we require now that wasn't even on our books when that project went in.
Can I just make one other comment? Just since we're making
I'm
comments.
not sure if I lost control of this meeting or this is normal, but go ahead, Rick, sure.
Just to speak to the children issue, I understand the concern and everything, but there's going to be a lot of amenities in here. There's going to be playgrounds, pickleball court, basketball, a pool. I think that's going to keep the kids kind of maybe on their grounds instead of somewhere else. So thanks.
Perfect, thank you. Commissioners, what are some, if any, do you have any major concerns about this project that we haven't addressed, or something that's making you want to go one way or the other on the vote that's worth
Chairman,
discussing?
maybe before, just to answer your prior question, there's also the question of how much density they could have had under prior or existing zoning that staff will try and get a better estimate on that as well. You'd asked previously about staff things, so sewer, and then that one we'll try and get some data on that.
Okay. I'll still leave my question open. Commissioners, anything else you'd like to say between us?
Commissioner Mitchell, I think the one thing that maybe is still hanging up just a little bit is that density possibility, just because anybody that has been in that area knows how complicated it can be to function. And most of the time you hit the stoplight, you go through the other places to get to the stoplight to come out onto Telegraph if you're smart. That's my only one reservation, is potentially if we're increasing the density in that location, what would we be doing?
I honestly don't remember. Hey, Melody, I'm going to put you on the spot here to find out if we've closed the public hearing. I believe that we did. I just need to confirm that.
You did not officially, but
Twice.
yeah.
You did close it.
We did close it. We had I'm going to look for a backup motion to close the public hearing from the commissioners.
Thank you.
Ms. Shill, I would recommend that we close this public hearing again.
This is Mitchell. I second.
All right. I've got a first and a second to close the public hearing again.
Aye.
All in favor? Aye. Okay, back to where we were. Sorry. For some of you, it's probably your first meeting here, and I want to reiterate and make sure that it's well understood that the role of the Planning Commission isn't to approve anything. What we do is we receive packets a week or two ahead of time where we have a chance to review the items coming before us. Our role is to make sure that we're working and asking questions with staff, making sure that the developers have done the things that they need to do. Sometimes it might not look like that in meetings like this where people come and have questions and feel like their concerns aren't being addressed. Our role, whether or not we put this item as a recommendation to City Council for approval or denial, doesn't stop the project. It just tells if it goes through as a denial, it has City Council look at it a little bit closer and find out what are the major problems that were brought up in the Planning Commission meetings that they need to address prior to their decision to approve or deny a project. If this project goes through with an approval, same thing, the City Council may not look at it as close. I would expect that they do. I always have. I've been doing this, I think, for 3 or 4 years now. I always expect that they take far more seriousness given the ability that they have to approve or deny projects. This evening, there's been some great points brought out. Sometimes I leave the meeting not sure myself. I don't have a problem personally, commissioners, with this project. There have been some concerns brought up that I wanted to make sure, and I continue to want to make sure that they're addressed with the with staff and that City Council is aware of it. That's the only concern that I have. I'm not a big fan of the density being high. My son actually got in an accident right where that red dot was within the last year. So we're doing our best as a family to try to get a light put there. Apparently it takes accidents. So yes, we feel this, and I don't live anywhere near this area, but I understand the concerns there. For me, it's not enough for me to say no to this project personally for commissioners, but there are valid points that I'd like the City Council to address. So that's where I'm at on this project.
As Commissioner Bullock, I agree with you. I think my biggest concern is the stoplight at Telegraph Street. That should probably needs to go in sometime. I know that it's warrants and stuff, but if there's any way to move that forward faster, that would be, hopefully someone could look into that.
This is Commissioner Tupou. I just have a question on the trail system. I know that Mr. Staley has mentioned that they've used the creek a certain way. Is that going to block their ability to?
So we've got an existing trail paved, built to the Mill Creek Culvert and Telegraph, and the Staley property is just due north outside of the road right away north of that. Our Parks Department master plans trails, but the master plans don't mean that we have legal right of access yet. And so I know that the parks would like to connect this trail to north of Mill Creek because of the connectivity, or north of the interstate because of just interconnectivity between the city. But we don't have a right of way through that creek at this point that we can rely upon or say. But you'll see the culvert there. The hash line comes out of the culvert and heads upstream. It's the best we've got. You know, that trail section goes down to 200 south and then also has a hash line going south. And so that trail section really doesn't go anywhere north or south of that location at this point. Your question's a really good one. How are we going to get it through there, and is it possible? I don't know for sure. We don't even know that we have a path for it to cross. You'll see there, they're putting it closer up towards the property lines, and which means probably out of the creek bottom. But again, that's just a line that was drawn, hoping that we could someday design and obtain right of way to put a trail through there.
So then would that change the need for a gate?
That being done, I would just tell them that it could be one gate opening, but build it as a what that gap is called. But wide, put the block in there, but just have it to where all you have to do is at the future time, when required to put that wall in, but because the trail's in there is too, but it's not in there yet. So that would just be my recommendation that I can pass on to Leisure Services, that we get that in. They're giving up, the part of the land as part of this development. That's one of the things that they're doing. Well, I don't know. We'll have Leisure Services. They're supposedly already looked at it, but we'll just clarify that up.
You'll see there the road of the trail then just goes over the top of the interstate. I'm joking. That's a section that's going to be improved with our UDOT work on the interstate in the next couple of years. They'll improve a culvert through there, and then the trail's going to rely on owners to the north as well, right? And so there was a time when Utah law allowed cities to use the powers of eminent domain to get trail sections. Thankfully, our city never had to do that, but it's not even an option now. So to get trails through other people's property, we have to go obtain right of way. And so there's plans, but then on trails, there's just the realities that determine when trails come into existence and where.
But now you know why we try to get the property during developments now, so we don't have to go back and get it later and stuff. And so that's why we just have them many times. If they're responsible for that, they put an escrow account in and we have it ready to go.
Thank you.
So is there easement to halfway, like the middle of the trail? Or this easement for this particular new development?
That'll be the only easement we have between Telegraph and I-15.
As the commissioner, I am not able to make a motion. And so commissioners, I look to you and your comments, if there are any additional, to please bring those out at this time. Otherwise, I'll look for a motion.
So Commissioner Mitchell, just sorry to interrupt. The trail portion that crosses this land will give us the full width of the trail from border to border. So we're taking, I don't like that word. They're contributing as part of the project proposal, the full width of the trail. It would be dedicated to the city as city ownership, not an easement, but ownership.
Yeah, perfect. I mean,
Correct, or easement?
that makes
Easement.
sense. I mean, I think that's a positive.
All right, as I was saying, any other additional comments, commissioners, or questions? Otherwise, I'll look for a motion from somebody that we can entertain and vote on.
This is Sheil. I'll take a stab at this. I would recommend that the Planning Commission deny approval of Z-22-06 for the zone change request for the current mobile home planned unit development and multi-family residential zoning designations to the proposed zoning of planned unit development residential PUD-R due to too high of density. I would recommend no more than 12 units per acre and forward that on to the city council for their review.
Yeah, there's a little bit of linguistics there. You just recommend approval or denial to the council, but you got your reasons. So yeah, that's good.
I have a motion by Commissioner Shield. Do I have a commissioner that will second that, or further discussion needed?
So in my limited knowledge, I'm still kind of hung up on what they potentially could do versus what they would do here. Are we really?
So this body essentially can table, recommend approval, or recommend denial. I don't see anything that justifies tabling. There's a couple of issues staff are going to get research so that answers can be given with more clarity on the sewer and on the previous density. I think what Commissioner Schill attempted was to recommend denial and then give his opinion on the record so the council can know the reasons why. and the commissioners are welcome to do that either at the motion, at the second, or at their vote.
That help you at all? I know you're newer to this.
And so it's essentially a recommendation of denial on density, and then you've got Commissioner Schill's personal views on what the density should be.
So again, I have a first by Commissioner Shield. I'll look for a second or additional comments or another motion, correct?
Well, you would just say that the motion, if nobody seconds, it just dies with a lack of a second is what you kind of do. So those are kind of the options. Any time anybody makes a motion, nobody wants a second, the motion just dies due to a lack of a second.
All right.
So
I'll look for any of the three of you to second that, or I'll look for a new motion.
Looks like the motion fails, Chairman.
Motion fails. I hear grumblings of another motion coming up here. I shouldn't say grumblings. I heard whisperings.
This is Commissioner Bullock. I make a motion. Hold on a minute. Make a motion. Sorry. To change the current MHPH PUD and R3 zoning to the proposed planned unit development residential zoning for the apartment complexes of 58 one bedrooms, 122 3-bedroom units, and move this on to City Council for approval. I'm pretty sure I screwed that up, but hopefully it makes sense.
I think you said
we
that
did have to correct that there are 1 bedroom, 2 bedroom, 3 bed. Don't worry about it. Just say 180 units, dwelling units.
180 dwelling units.
And can we add, given, the city is going to do the future research to determine the infrastructure is properly in place prior to.
Yeah, you could just add that your motion recommending approval assumes that the city's answers to those research questions would be satisfactory to the council.
Yeah. So with the addition of our research questions that we asked would be approved or satisfactory.
I think the record's sufficient. We want the council to know your concerns
About the sewer line.
The motion's either to recommend approval or recommend denial, and I think this one was approval.
Yes.
Yeah.
I've got a second motion I've got a new motion to approve by Commissioner Bullock. Do I have a second?
This is Commissioner Tupou. I second that.
I've got a motion by Commissioner Bullock. I've got a second by Commissioner Tupou. Individual voting on this item, Commissioner Bullock,
Aye.
Commissioner Shield,
Nay.
Commissioner Tupou,
Aye.
Commissioner Mitchell,
I'll say nay.
This is Commissioner Hanson. I'm going to go with what I thought all along. I recommend this as I am a nay as well. The motion fails to pass 3-2. This will go to City Council for recommendation.
Just a correction, the motion passed.
As a fail.
A recommendation for approval. Strike that. The motion failed.
The motion failed.
Okay. The motion failed. So we got to do it again? Another motion?
No.
The motion,
You don't have to, but I would hope that you would have something to send to the city council.
Well,
So-
can I make a motion that we approve this with a lower density? Can I
No,
make that motion?
you can recommend that it be denied. So we need to send something to the city council, and it looks like 3 of you at least would support a motion for recommending denial. And so because the motion attempting to recommend approval failed, I would suggest you see if you can get a motion recommending denial. Now, you can make all the comments you want that your recommendation would differ if the density was different. But I don't want you making motions for density that aren't actually part of the application. Does that make sense? So we need to give this application an up or down vote and recommendation to the council. Now, your comments tonight, I think, can be interpreted and digested by the applicants, and they can certainly learn from those and take guidance from this body as to what 5 citizens who do a lot of land use review feel like their project might need to adjust. Does that make sense? I think you just say, I recommend, I'll make a motion recommending denial with
Is there any way to tie this? So I feel like my view changes if that light's in place, but we can't tie that. We can't tie this to that situation, correct?
Yeah, because of all the other uses and the light is not on part of the property, we can't burden it with the requirement that a light be installed before. Also, the fact that they've operated residential use, high density at this location for decades. We have a light challenge there. We're very much aware of it, but we can't lawfully say they can't do anything without a light. We can lawfully say we don't think their density fits this area of our community, right? And so if you're looking to tie it to details, tie it to the details of the application. And if you feel like density is not appropriate because of that light, that's certainly something that a legislative body can find as a detail of land use at that location.
So this is Shill. I would still recommend denial due to the fact of too high of density with one access. The light, you're going to have a light there no matter you have 120 units or if you have 180 units. You're still going to need a light there eventually, and it's going to come. But I would recommend denial due to the fact, just because of too high a density. I would recommend 12 units per acre or 135 units per the development, and due to the ingress egress.
This is Commissioner Mitchell. I second that motion.
I have a motion by Commissioner Shield. I have a second by Commissioner Mitchell. Individual voting, Commissioner Bullock,
Nay.
Commissioner Shield,
Aye.
Commissioner Tupou,
Nay.
Commissioner Mitchell.
Aye.
I'm Commissioner Hanson. I'm an aye as well, and I'd like to add the comment. The reason I'm voting for this, again, I understand my role and capacity as a commissioner. I am not a decision maker in this process. What I'm trying to do is get the attention of city council with a hammer that there's some things that need to be looked at. This isn't as easy and clear as one might think. So with that being said, the motion of denial passes 3-2.
The motion of recommending denial.
Recommending denial, sorry. The motion recommending denial passes 3-2, and this will be sent to city council as such.
Correct. And they will hear it on May 25th.
So May 25th, those of you here that have interest in this particular item would like to come and take your 3 minutes at city council as well, you're welcome to do so. And I have got to give an award to Mr. George Staley. I have never seen somebody get so much leverage out of his 3 minutes. It's pretty good. That is, I don't even know how that happened. But item number 5B. What I'll do at this time is I will take adjourn for a recess for 5 minutes for any of those that may need to have that, and we'll come back and start at 5 till.
I need to go down the hall, but yes, I can hear you.
Perfect, thank you. All right, commissioners, at this time, we'll continue the meeting on item number 5B. This is a public hearing as well for consideration and recommendation to the city council for a zone change request Z-2207 from a C1 to a PUDC located at approximately 635 East Telegraph Street. The applicant is TL Hamilton and Hamilton Motors. I'll turn the time over to staff for the report.
Thank you, Commissioners. The applicants request an approval of a zone change of approximately 1.3 acres. The requested change is, as stated, from C1 zoning designation to the proposed plan unit development commercial designation. The PUDC requires an approved site design before the property can be used as a commercial development. The applicant is proposing a used car dealership with a 3,230 square foot building consisting of a 3-bay detailing garage and office space. The rest of the parcel will be used for automobile display and customer parking. The building exterior finishes are well designed from an aesthetic perspective, with a mixture of stone veneer, wood grain siding, metal siding, and stucco. Color schemes are in your attached exhibits. Landscaping is very well thought out with low water impact, consisting of rock mulch ground cover, scattered shrubs and plants throughout the exterior of the lot. All in all, this is a very good proposal for one of our busiest traveled roads and developing two parcels that have long sat undeveloped due to challenging soil conditions. The general plan land use designation for this parcel is community commercial, and surrounding zoning to the parcel is R115 to the north, C1 to the east and west, and plan unit development residential and residential agricultural 2-acre minimum to the south across Telegraph Street. Staff is supportive of the project at this location. Staff would like to recommend that the Planning Commission recommend approval of Z-22-07 for the zone change request from the current C1 zoning to the proposed plan unit development commercial zoning designation. That would be on to the City Council, and based on the findings and subject to the conditions that are in your report. I'll just start and go through the exhibits here real quick for you.
Drew, if I may, real quick, while you're on that exhibit,
Yes.
your report says the building is 3230, the exhibit says 3915.
That's true.
You know which one?
Sure. Quickly, what happened? Okay. Your write-up said 30. Okay. I wrote from her right. No, I'm not going to throw you on the bus. But, so technically, it sounds like it has been adjusted to 3915, which is an increase of 700 square feet plus or minus, right? Yeah. So the actual building is the 3915. Thank you, Councilman Segmiller. Council Segmiller, I won't say councilman, even though he used to be. Here's the layout of the building itself, which is 3915, with the 3 bays for detailing, the offices for the cells. And this is a renditions through a drafting perspective. And then the back side of that 3 bays. And then the building sits at an angle, so that's why it looks like the same as the other front elevation there. Sorry, the photo, sometimes when we load them, PDFs, they get turned around, but this is kind of the color scheme. They have an existing building in Lehigh, and this is going to be basically in the same format as that one there, with the kind of that blue metal fascia and soffit, associated stone, but I think we have colored palette here. There's your stone. Then the faux wood siding. Stucco texture and approximate color, kind of a white cream. And then the ironclad, again, metal siding of a charcoal nature. So with that, I'll be glad to answer any questions that the commissioners might have on.
Commissioners, I'll open the floor. Thanks, Drew, for any questions you might have. The only one I have, Drew, is just making sure that the sewer line is the right size coming into this. Are we good?
It will be because we're going to be stubbing the sewer line, so it'll
No
have
offense.
to
I
be.
just got to make sure now.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So this is Sheila on, is it Frontier Street, the one behind it?
Yes.
Is that a residential area? And I guess,
Yeah. Let me bring up the map and kind of show you where we're at here.
It's a public road, but there are residences to the north. To the east and west is the dollar store and a laundromat and car wash.
Yeah, they're taking these two lots here, 3 and 4. Lot 2 will still be vacant, but this is Frontier that you're asking. And again, I'll pull down. You can see it's a residential development back there behind the Family Dollar, etc. Many of you have driven by this hundreds of times, I know, since you've lived here. So that's why the condition for the 6-foot block wall will need to be there because of headlights. Anytime you have commercial with residential behind, block walls
but they will
required.
have an access there. And the residents know that, I guess.
Correct. But I like how they put it because it's not lights coming in, it's just the people coming in and out of the lot itself.
Yep.
Because you guys want a second oh wait, we won't touch that.
Commissioners, any additional initial questions before I open this up for a public hearing? I'll open this up for a public hearing at this time. If there's anybody here in the chamber that would like to speak to this particular item, please come forward and state your name for the record. It does not appear that there are any residents in here that would like to speak to this item. I look for a motion to close the public hearing.
Sheila, I propose we close this public hearing.
I'm surprised nobody's here.
This is Mitchell. I second.
Got a first and a second to close the public hearing. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, the public hearing is closed. I'll open the floor again, commissioners, for any questions you have for staff or the applicant.
I've got a quick question. So sorry, in my mind, I'm thinking of that wall, and when you're trying to exit onto Frontier in relationship to that wall being a 6-foot wall, the placement of the wall, I could see being critical, I guess, seeing traffic flowing on Frontier Drive.
Yeah, I don't. Drew, is it depicted on that rendering as the wall location shown? Usually it's
No, it's not.
It's
But
closer.
what I would recommend that the wall just follow my blue pencil, because the landscaping, I want it to benefit the road outward. I'd really want it. Do you see where my blue line is?
Yeah, I wonder if we could keep the retention pond though on the inside of the wall so that the owners see it and see what happens there. I think sometimes when it's on the other side of the wall, it's forgotten and then it's not as well as taken care of. Just a thought.
Well, if they landscaped it, would you have concern? Because, they can bring the rock mulch down in there. It's basically just to hold water because they are, this is one of those great examples we use of why you have a detention pond, because this was all dirt right now. As soon as I asphalt this thing, water's going to run off, or a lot of it would stay in. So it'll build up in there. But if we did it all in a finished rock mulch to match the rest, but it was just depressed with that, would you? Well, in a minute, I just want to get his opinion. You'll have plenty of time to come up here in a second. So
does anybody else have thoughts on the wall? I mean, I'm the newest one here. It's just a thought that came to my mind. I've seen retention ponds that are on the other side of the wall that are not as well kept as if it's on the owner's side of the wall.
Yeah, and as you try to decide where you want the wall, remember to the northwest, the Family Dollar has an access right there too, and so you won't want your wall to interrupt too much with the view from that Family Dollar access. Does that make sense?
It's for sight distance, etc. Because this is a bended road.
Down the road.
Yeah, I mean, the wall is just that short little section too, when it's just on that north side, is really not going to be.
Yeah, they're not connecting it. They're not trying to keep the dogs in or anything like residential walls.
Who would be responsible for maintaining that area? Is it the applicant?
Yes, it's their property. Yep.
So it
So-
doesn't matter what side of the wall it is.
So the city has a department that checks on detention basins, and if they're in disrepair or need to be cleaned, they'll get a notice. But Commissioner Mitchell's correct. Detention basins that you don't have to look at, you seem to maybe not maintain as often as you would if it's something you looked at on a daily basis. That's a fair point.
Yeah, but due to my code, because we require a 10-foot landscape strip on street frontages, I don't want to, the landscape strip is for the beautification of the street view. So the wall actually has to be on the interior side of that 10-foot, because it doesn't do me any good to put a landscape strip and then have it on the inside of the wall. Does that make sense for you? And we just like that things off of the street, not having buildings or walls or anything. So that's why that's always been in our commercial zones, to have that landscape strip.
Commissioner Tupou again, on Frontier Drive, is that just mulch? It doesn't have any shrubs or trees or anything?
Well, it probably should. I didn't catch that before. They should have some shrubbery in it because, again, it's a landscape strip.
Yeah.
So we would want some shrubs, maybe, just short bushes and something in there, kind of match what they've done on the other.
On the lighting, it's all downward facing in, so that
One of the conditions, yeah.
so that won't, because there's that one light right there, and there's a house straight across the street.
Right.
Is there any way to? We'll just make sure that that's not shining in the neighbor's yard in the middle of the night.
Correct. And again, there's all kinds of lights out there. That's why we put these in our commercial. You can buy them with what I call fins. They call them blades. They call them, diverters. There's all kinds of, I just call them fins because I used to work in the film industry for a couple of years in college, and we call them fins. But it blocks it, so you can still see the glow, but there's not a beam of light that, escapes the property. I can't stop glows from going there, but beams of light. So.
Drew, this isn't so much a question about this design, but that lot that sits between this and the existing laundromat, would its access just be shared on the boundary line with the laundromat? Is that what the access plan is for the neighbor lot?
You mean this one up here with them?
So I'm not talking on the project. I'm talking the lot 665 that right there. Is that where lot 665 will access?
Yes, that's a shared access between both these properties.
Okay, it's a little askew on the Frontier Drive, but that's the city's position. Is that lot accesses from those 2 points? There's no new accesses for 665.
Correct.
Okay.
This one comes out up here. You see my bouncing, right with right there.
Kind of right before the bend, yeah.
Yep.
All right, commissioners, any other questions that you have for staff? Would you like to have a couple minutes to say anything? As the applicant, remember to state your name for the record, please.
All right. I am Tawny Hamilton, and representing TL Hamilton and Hamilton Motors. So the plan for the back entrance was mostly just to be used for employees and taking cars over to the car wash or over to I think it's O'Reilly that's going to be built a little bit north of us.
Napa.
So we weren't going to have it necessarily be anything for customers. It was mostly, you pull cars out of the bay, and that way you're not running cars through the parking lot off onto Telegraph. So that was kind of the reason that we put that there. And then in terms of the wall, there's not a wall. I don't know if the wall thing is something new in the code, but there's not a wall on the Family Dollar, and there's not a wall on the car wash. So if it's part of the code and it has to be there, then, we will do it. As for landscaping, I'm looking at it, I keep trying to think, it would be better if the detention pond were inside the wall, because then it for sure would be taken care of. Because I know those do get out of control sometimes. So whatever staff recommends, we will work with that. And then yes, we would probably put, I was planning on anyway, putting plants along the back, and then along the side, extending it from those 7 that are listed all the way up. We were planning on doing some like green tower boxwoods or something that's going to be like 3 or 4 feet tall to kind of give a visual barrier between us and the Family Dollar. And then also in the back so that it's a little more aesthetically pleasing to have that landscaping there. So I think, does that address all of your questions that you had? Did that address your
Yeah.
question? Okay.
Me personally, I feel like it might be, I don't know what the requirements are, but maybe not have the wall unless it is a necessity.
And I would second that only because of like I've driven around the lot and I feel like it would be a little, because it's not a main ingress and egress. I think the wall won't be too terrible, but it is such a short section and it's right around that bend. So it does give a little bit of a hindrance.
Well, the only people that can do that is your city council. I can't do that. You can't do that. You can ask for it. The code does require it. It's in my C,
Yes, okay.
in my commercial zoning. Any commercial property that abuts or, would be next to a residential neighborhood. Again, you're a car lot. The reason we have the block walls is for headlights, for, commercial uses. And
Yeah.
you are definitely, your whole thing is cars and they have headlights. At least they better, especially when you sell them. But so you can, the rationale behind why it's there is needed.
Yeah.
But it's your council, that would be, you can ask for that to be done, but I can't give that, nor can this group there, because the only people who can go beyond their code is the city council if they felt inclined to do so. So.
And what we just call it a permitted exception. It just means the council finds that it's in the best interest of the community that part of the code be accepted. And there's other good reasons. When you overlay this, you'll notice right next to it's the Family Dollar parking lot, and there's no wall in that. And this wall will just kind of look like a little orphan wall. I don't know what you call it. But yeah, you'll see that. And so I think there's good reason to maybe add that to your recommendation.
The lot next to it, though, will require a wall. It's zoned commercial, so it will require a wall once that one gets built.
Yeah, what you're looking at is you've got a commercial on the east and west side of these parcels that were developed before these standards were adopted. And so now we've got more modern standards with neighbors that, show why we adopted standards in the first place. And so yeah, it's just that reality.
And then just also to piggyback off of what the lighting issue, we do have this almost exact same building in Lehigh. It's on Lehigh Main Street, which is like has historical standards. And so that's kind of why we decided to do the exact same thing, because it meets all the zoning standards up in Lehigh, which are actually more stringent than your zoning standards. And it's attractive. We've never had any issues. We do have residential around it, as well as neighborhood commercial, we have an assisted living center that's right next door. And we've never had any issues with lighting, with parking, with anything like that, because we're pretty self-contained.
I think she just asked for greater restrictions, didn't she?
After my project, right?
So is that north boundary the boundary along Frontier?
Drew, if you
Yes.
Google Hamilton Motors Lehigh, you'll be able to show a street view of the building. That might be useful. Are you going to bring that old truck to us or leave that one up there? I like that.
Who knows? It's cool, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah, you can. I did submit some pictures way early on to Eldon, and they didn't make it in the packet. But if you Google it, you'll see what the existing building looks like.
Yeah, I'll. Sometimes it takes the old dog a little while to figure out airplay. Oh, I'm on my laptop. I can do it on this one. I'll get there. Being tech savvy wasn't in my interviews. Which one are we going to again? It's conference room or council room in all caps. There we go. There we go. So that's the truck I was talking about. That's the building there. This is what was that business?
An assisted living
Assisted
center.
living.
Yeah.
I'll just go along the road and kind of show you the look there.
Your parking lights in your parking lot, that won't fly here.
I know. I know.
I know those lights.
Any other angles you'd like to see, commissioners?
I'm good. Tell them about your cars.
Cars, we specialize in newer off-lease Toyotas and Hondas. Obviously, getting cars has been a lot more difficult over the past couple of years, but most of the cars that we sell are, 4 years old at the most, unless it's a trade-in. But we do, we specialize in newer off-lease ones.
So this one's nearby residential too, isn't it?
Yes, that one's across the street. There's residential on both sides and behind that one. This one has the assisted living center on one side and then storage units on the other side. And then it has been residential along there. It's slowly being developed. There's going to be a mortuary that goes on the other side of the public storage. But then across the street where those are residential, it's all neighborhood commercial or commercial, but no plans have been made to change them.
Is that shrubbery similar to what you're planning on using?
Yeah, those are like little boxwoods that they're kind of like what you have in front of this building. They're like round little poofs.
Can we get daylilies like that too?
Yeah.
Okay.
Do those grow down here?
They do.
Oh,
yeah, there's
okay.
desert adapted daylilies.
Oh.
And that's a little eastern red bud. We like those.
Where's the
You
man
all are welcome to come on by and enjoy that 10 days of flowering.
I warned you.
All right. Commissioners, any other questions for the applicant before I'll entertain a motion? Thank you.
Thank you.
Ready. I'll entertain a motion on this item, Commissioners.
This is Commissioner Tupou. I make a motion to approve and pass on to City Council item number 5B, Z-22-07, request to rezone 1.3 acres located at 635 East Telegraph Street from the current C1 to the proposed PUDC zoning designation, with the 2 findings and 10 conditions in the staff report, and adding the additional landscaping along Frontier and along the south border of the property, and pass it on to City Council.
The south border has the Did you mean west?
Oh, west.
Okay.
Excuse me.
This is Commissioner Bullock. I'll second.
I've got a motion by Commissioner Tupou. I've got a second by Commissioner Bullock. Individual voting, Commissioner Bullock,
Aye.
Shield,
Aye.
Tupou,
Aye.
Mitchell.
Aye.
I'm Hanson. I'm an aye as well. Item number 5B passes. We will send that to City Council with a recommendation for approval.
And again, on the 25th of May.
We'll move along to item number 5C. This is also a public hearing for consideration and recommendation to City Council for a zone change request, Z-22-08, from agricultural 20 to residential half acre located at approximately 3930 South, 200 West. The applicant is Stephen Simister. I'll turn the time over to staff for their report.
Thank you. As stated, applicants request an approval of a zone change of approximately 4.427 acres. The current zoning is the agricultural 20-acre minimum zoning. They are wishing to go to the proposed residential agricultural half-acre minimum, or referred to as the RA half zoning designation. The request for the RA half is for the purpose of developing the parcel into a personal residence. This particular location has a general land use designation of low-density residential, which allows for the R110, R112, and larger zoning districts. Surrounding zoning of the parcel is A20 to the north, R112 to the east, RA1 to the west, and St. George City zoning to the south. St. George City zoning appears to be for larger estate lots, as I looked on the aerial view of that. So staff has no concerns with the proposed zone change as outlined. The applicant appears to be in harmony with surrounding land uses. Staff would therefore like to recommend that the Planning Commission recommend approval of Z-22-08 for the zone change from A20 to RA half, and that would be on to the City Council based on the findings in your report. And I'll be glad to answer any questions. If you want, I'll bring this up on the aerial unless you kind of know where it is. Then I'd be very impressed with you.
Drew, as you're bringing this up, this is being proposed for just one residence?
Yes. This was owned by the LDS Church. It was going to be a church at one time, but then plans they've had this ever since this piece since I've been working here. The church layouts are a little bit different now, and they need a little bit more room on their parcels, so they put this one back out on the market, and Mr. Simister picked it up. That's why we kind of stubbed this road over here into it, because it was going to be a church. Now he has an extra access out the backside but we can deal with that later. But
is he responsible to build that full length of road there on the
yes, he's supposed to improve
because
the street on the south and on the
it's a public street
west.
All the way to 3930, right?
And 170. It's tough for some folks, but unfortunately that would be the case on this.
I'm sure they recognized when they bought it that was an issue that it pre-existed it, right?
I guess even another thought too on the other side of the property is the irrigation ditch that may need to be.
Is that location that's had elevation issues ever since developers started filling?
Did we ever clean up that irrigation situation with Eagle Summit and stuff, John? Do you know? I hate to bring that up. I know it's been a nightmare around.
John's got I was hired after that excuse tonight. I know that it was a historical problem. I don't know about currently, but that the property to the north does still irrigate with the historic irrigation system. And I know there's been water issues of the neighboring properties come in and change grade and change things. And then
up here we had problems, I think, on the north. I'm not sure what it's like on the south, but
yeah, this particular piece is lower. Well, or the same grade, so they won't have the same issues, I don't think, on this piece as they've seen on the north end.
Yeah, and the elevation was different up on the north versus the south as well. So Yeah, they've been there. They know what they're getting, I think. So
Drew, can I ask this one more time? I already asked it. I just want to clarify it again. The purpose of this request is not to subdivide this into half-acre lots. It's for one lot. One house, one lot.
I will have the applicant verify that, but that is my understanding.
All right.
Here he comes.
Steven, you're chomping at the bit.
This is
I'd love
the
to
owner.
hear
It's
it.
not even the owner's representative, right?
Hi, I'm Steven Simister, the owner and applicant. So originally I did purchase this property for my personal residence and got my house plans put together to put on the property. And then where it's Ag 20, it's not really in conform, where it's only 4.5 acres is what I understand. So in working with staff, it would be appropriate to zone the property so that it kind of fits the size of the property is the way I understood. And so since we are zoning it, there could be a possibility that my brother might buy the second half and there might be 2 residents would be at most on the property. So that has just happened in the zoning process. Originally, I was just going to put my personal residence on it.
Yeah. All right. Thanks. Appreciate it.
Mm-hmm.
He wants to split up those road improvement costs. See, that's what I don't believe.
Actually, when he subdivides it for his brother, it'll be a long flag lot, so his brother will be responsible for the road. I'm just kidding.
All right, commissioners, any additional initial questions for staff before I open this up for a public hearing? You look like you want to ask one.
No,
No?
I'm just trying to get
Okay.
my bearings.
I'm going to open it up for a public hearing at this time. If there's anybody here that would like to speak to this particular item, please come forward and state your name for the record.
Yes,
On the left, on the right.
the left. Tibble's up here. So kind of northwest.
Is that Tyson with the red?
No, Tyson's.
So just a quick question. This is Commissioner Mitchell. I mean, obviously, if by approving this zoning, even though potentially it's 2, it could be more, right? That fits the R.
You could come back with half-acre
half.
lots.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's currently Ag 20, and so for all of the uses down there, they eventually come out of Ag to some residential designation. So this would be half-acre lots. If they're gonna plat lots, they're gonna have to come back through you anyway. So this doesn't give them any platting, and of course the lots that they draw are subject to the conditions that exist at the site.
I'm going to I'll entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
This is Commissioner Bullock. I make a motion to close the public hearing.
Shill second.
We got a first and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Public hearing is closed. Commissioners, any other questions or comments for staff? This is Hanson. I used to live in this area. My personal opinion is I would love to see more lots come back to us, which seems kind of contrary sometimes to what we talk about. I personally would not like to see one lot in this area in that situation. Just knowing the neighborhood, used to live very close to this, just seems out of place to me. It's not enough for me to say no, but I would love to be able to accept this and push it to city council as a recommendation for approval. But my 2 cents is that I'd love to see more lots on this, not 1. Even 2 is pushing it for me, but that's where I'm at. It doesn't fit the surrounding area as it is right now. Yeah. Any other comments or questions? If not, I'll look for a motion on this item.
This is Commissioner Bullock. I make a motion we recommend approval of Z 2208 for the zone change request from agricultural 20 to the proposed RA half onto the city council based on the two findings.
Commissioner Tupou, I second that.
I've got a motion by Commissioner Bullock, a second by Commissioner Tupou. Individual voting, Commissioner Bullock,
Aye.
Commissioner Shield,
Aye.
Commissioner Tupou,
Aye.
Commissioner Mitchell.
Aye.
I'm Commissioner Hanson. I'm an aye as well. This motion passes unanimously. We'll send that city council with a recommendation for approval. Item number 5D. This is also a public hearing for consideration and recommendation to the city council for a zone change request Z-22-09 from open space to C3. The applicant is Rusty Hughes on behalf of Washington City. Turn the time over to staff.
Thank you. As stated, applicant is requesting approval of zone change of approximately 0.78 acres. The request is from the open space to a proposed C3 zoning designation. The C3 request is for a possible land trade with adjoining property owner. C3 designation is needed for possible signage use for the current needs of a particular sign that's out there now, that Sienna Hills sign needs to be relocated. Most of you have heard there's an auto mall coming into this particular area. If you haven't, you know where you've been, but anyway. So we're wanting to trade, the city is, with.
Hey, John, have you heard of the auto mall? Okay.
So we're wanting to trade land. Again, the city acquired this actually through UDOT. It was left over from the I-15 corridor, gave it to the city to have, needed. So it's just a thin piece that we'll never be able to develop for much of anything. So great piece to trade. It helps them out. So that's kind of what this zone change is for, is just to get it available for them to be able to use for a possible signage location. So the general plan designation at this particular area is open space, the I-15 corridor. The surrounding zoning is C3 to the west, C2 to the south and east. And again, that open space of the I-15 itself being open space corridor as well. Staff supportive of the request at this location. Against, therefore, staff would like to recommend that the Planning Commission recommend approval of Z-22-09 for the zone change request from the current. It actually shouldn't be service commercial. That's the piece we're going to trade with them. But it's open space onto that C3 zoning on this strip of land. And that would be onto the city council. And that's based on the findings and subject to the conditions below. No, there are no conditions, sorry, just findings.
Didn't we just do that on the little flag lot just to the west?
You just gave this over here.
Yeah, the same thing, so they could move the sign down to there?
Well, they did, but then it kind of really took a chunk out of this piece of property, and it's farther down than what they really wanted to be. So then this idea came about after that fact. So they are hoping to put the sign back
Who's ending
here.
up with the property is that guy on the left?
No.
No, they own that piece already over here.
Right.
And we're just going to do a land swap with them so they can pick this piece up.
Our swap goes to the left. It gives the city a right to connect the frontage road someday when the city's ready.
And we're going to pick up some of this down here.
I thought he owned that.
They do, and that's what the swap's going to be. But put the sign there, it's just, it eats up too much room, where this piece is just wide enough, the highlighted yellow, and it's not pushing it as far over than they have to. Because again, they're trying to pick up signage that with people coming off of the off-ramp is the benefit for that. And if it's way over here to the left, it's almost too far away.
I just wanted to make sure we didn't have a bunch of signs, because we already approved the one down lower.
No,
So we're not
because
going to
here's
have a
the
bunch of
beauty.
signs all lined up right there.
The beauty about this is that it'll become an off-premise sign. They're only allowed in 2 zones. C3 and industrial. And they have to be so many feet apart from each other. So we won't have a myriad of signs coming down. You'll have the auto mall sign, and then you'll have this sign, and that'll be it.
The auto mall sign will be,
Where the big one is now, the one they're moving is where the auto mall sign's going to go.
okay.
And I'll pull that up for you.
And then they'll just take that one and put it right here.
Yes.
Okay, that makes sense. I just didn't want to look like other by Cold Fort.
I know exactly what you're saying. That was my concern, but because my code has built-in kind of protection to that. So the auto mall sign is going to be roughly, this is it right here. You can see this gray square that I'm circling around. That's what it is now, and they're going to move it down over here. And then the new auto mall sign will go roughly somewhere, maybe not exactly right there, but in close proximity to that existing Sienna Hills sign.
Okay, so
I allow for off-premise in the C3 zone. That's why we got to do C3.
So you want to move the Sienna Hills sign down there and then move the auto mall
Yes, because
sign
they
up
have
there?
contracts they have to maintain with the clients in the Sienna Hills commercial development.
Okay, that makes sense. I just remember moving that one down there, and I didn't want to have it littered with signs all the way up through there.
What they won't be able to.
Okay.
The auto mall is going to have one major sign, and then they'll have them on their buildings, but nobody's going to be able to skirt a bunch of signs along the back. They're going to have a unique sign is the best way I can say it, and which will be out here somewhere, and then we're going to move this one and put it in roughly over here where you can see my arrow bouncing. That's why we're doing the swap, so they can put that there.
So we're going to end up with a property on the left that
Acre for acre swap, yes.
And then that
Not all of it, but
what's
part
that
of it.
What's that do for us? What's that do for the city?
It
Zoom
gives us
out there.
the roadway, the frontage road. We don't have to go buy it.
Zoom out there a little bit, Drew, and they'll be able to see. So that Merritt Way, as you see it crossing, will be rerouted.
I'm still confused.
So look right there. So
Whitehead bought that.
About what?
So
State your name for the record, sorry.
Rusty Hughes, I'm the Economic Development Director, and I've been working with the Automall Group on this. There are a couple of issues here. There was approval there was a recommendation for approval by the Planning Commission for relocation of the sign to that piece that is in red right now. There were some concerns brought up at the time. One was the lighting. Another was just how to configure the building that they have planned for that. And then a third was that the existing contracts on the Sienna Hills sign preferred a different location as well. So it's really courtesy to, and then we also got a call from someone who represents that RV park as well. And all of them prefer relocation to further east for the sign. So the Automall is attempting to accommodate that by switching, by asking for this land swap. So they own the red piece now, and they're going to swap. This has gone through our public works staff. There is not a use for the current piece now, and they would like to include that in their engineering. So that's what they would like that for.
So Commissioner Schill, the red area is right of way that we don't own, that we will own if this is closed. And then Drew, if you pull over, you'll see the city's yard right there. The green, it leads into city property.
Yep.
And then that road connects to 300 East at
Right.
the north. And so there's a master plan frontage road from 300 East fronting the interstate up to.
So are
the
we going to be able
Siennas.
to have a frontage road even on the blue area that he drew in?
The
Nope.
frontage road will be Merritt Way, but it's going to be
Okay.
rerouted south. It'll come in and
Okay.
and S up. But
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Yep. I was confused.
I'm going to open this up to a public hearing. If there's anybody here in the chamber that would like to speak to this item, please come forward and state your name. There does not appear anybody would like to do that this evening. I look for a motion to close the public hearing.
This is Mitchell. I make a motion to close the public hearing.
This is Bullock, I'll second.
Now we got a first and a second to close the public hearing. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, public hearing is closed. I'll open up commissioners to additional questions that you have for staff. or the applicant, which is staff.
Can we make a recommendation?
Sure.
I would recommend that the planning commission recommend approval of Z-22-09 for the zone change request for the current service commercial C2 zoning designation to the proposed zoning of general commercial C3 onto the city council based on the two findings.
This is Bullock. I'll second.
I've got a motion by Commissioner Shield. I have a second by Commissioner Bullock. Individual voting, Commissioner Bullock.
Aye.
Shield.
Aye.
Tupou.
Aye.
Mitchell.
Aye.
I'm Hanson. I'm an aye as well. Item number 5D passes unanimously. We'll send that to City Council with a recommendation for approval. Last item on our agenda this evening, and thank you for those that had to stick around for this. Item number 5E, this is a public hearing for a request to change previously approved design standards for Z-21-27 located approximately 14 north, 300 east. The applicant is Keith Grundman, and we'll turn the time over to staff for their report.
Yes, this site exhibit does look familiar. Drew, there should be another one. That's the previously approved. Isn't it? Gotcha.
Here's the old.
Okay. The applicant is requesting approval to modify the previously approved design and use for the currently zoned PUDC zoned property. The applicant recently purchased the property to the east and have made changes to the site plan that include adding parking stalls, which were increased to 9 stalls. They added 2 stalls, on-site traffic flow, and increased open space landscaped area. No other changes are being made at this time. Building elevations, those renderings stay the same. The original plan was approved on January 26, 2022, and the removal of the right turn lane was also approved on March 23rd, 2022. Staff recommends that the Planning Commission recommend approval of the modified Z-21-27 for the specific site design and use to the already approved PUD commercial site onto the City Council. If the commission wishes to move this item forward with a recommendation for approval, you can use these conditions as seen in your report. And I'm happy to answer any questions at this time.
This is Commissioner Tupou. I thought they had, off of that exit, there was going to be like an island that would force them to go in and right out only.
There was
so that they can't do a left.
Correct, yeah, there's a center median added on off of 300 East, so no left.
I just don't see it on the drawings.
We're gonna put concrete out in that street. In the street, the median.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
So Eldon, the property to the east, that was that residence that was there? So that'll be, okay, that'll be taken down and then.
The house will go.
How many, what was the lot size of the residence?
0.18, I believe.
Not big, but probably enough to, obviously enough to give some more flexibility on the design.
Yeah, push the access farther east off the corner.
Which that's better.
Plus. Yeah.
And they actually pick up 2 parking stalls.
Yeah.
Which is good too, so.
So they own all 3 lots right there?
Yeah, the first 2 lots are but technically 1 lot.
Okay.
The county did a funky thing years and years ago, combined them, so they say, if you go to the parcel ID number,
okay.
the legal description is lots 1 and 2 of certain subdivision, which made it 1 lot, but there's, so I don't worry about that line in there, that because technically it really doesn't exist because it's the border around. But then they'll be adding this one to it, so where the house exists now.
How will customers that park in the parking lot, how do they leave? Do they have to get in that drive-through to leave?
The exit, if you see where it says exit, they'll follow, that's a third lane that goes around the outside. Just look on your screen, Commissioner.
I think what's
Yeah, you're looking at the old one.
Yeah, I'm looking at the old one, I guess.
We just wanted you to see what it was approved and what they're going to.
That's what it should be.
the only thing, that proposed trash enclosure is not actually that big. That's a lane right there, even though it looks like it jets out far enough to prevent that from being a lane, correct?
Right, it's just concrete area.
Okay. I was looking at the wrong one.
No, you're fine. That's why it was just, I kind of figured that, so it's up there. So that exit lane is the way to get, out for the people parking there. Yeah, we like it because it just flows better, a little bit more
Well, I think
landscaping on
it
the
gave it
corner.
a lot more landscape on the corner too. I think it
looks
keeps that corner more open.
I think it looks a lot better. I just wonder about the big corner right there. That's just going to be landscape?
Detention and landscape.
Oh, is that what that is detention on the northeast corner? No.
Oh.
The bottom right of your screen.
Down here?
Right.
Over. Right.
Your other right, Drew. The corner of the
On what street are we
In
on?
front of the.
There's no street. It's just that corner right there. Is that just all
Oh,
landscape?
in here, yeah. Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah, I think they need to put something there. We can't just have it grab it. It looks like there's plants in there, so I'd imagine that we'll have them verify it's going to have a mulch too, I guess.
Is it just a landscape area? You can't do another building there because this is it for the PUD, right?
Well, that's what they're proposing right now.
Okay.
They'd have to, if they found something that they could put in there, say something else, they'd have to come in and get approval for that.
Okay.
Are the dark black lines curbing? Or is that just, kind of to direct the flow of the traffic? Or is that just to kind of show, maybe it's nothing?
Well,
maybe just helping
does it have to be, or
distribute.
can it just be a line?
Yeah.
Just striped.
Got you.
Yeah, I would think that we'd want to stripe and bring the cars in and have them hug, that are going to get in line way over here. And then come around, the same with these, just, show that so that I don't have somebody pulling in here and getting too close to where people can't back up. It'd be nice if they had a striped lane, it said order window, drive up window here, so people stay in that. So these folks can back up out of this into a backup area and then be able to get out. So I would recommend that we put a striped lane in there and say drive through, that you can paint on the ground and then have the people come through there.
That trash enclosure is not going to block that lane, right?
No, it's just the concrete pad area because I don't blame them. Usually those trucks are hard on asphalt, so they're going to pour a concrete apron because that's where the heaviness, when they lift up that dumpster and they dump it in, so they're probably just putting concrete there and then asphalt around it.
All right, this is a public hearing. I'm going to open it up for anybody here in the chamber that would like to speak on this item. Please come forward and state your name for the record. And looks like there is nobody this evening, and I would look for a motion to close the public hearing.
Sheila, I propose we close this public hearing.
It's Commissioner Tupou, I second that.
I've got a first and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, public hearing is closed. Commissioners, I'll open up the floor for any other questions or comments that you have. Or if the applicant would like to say anything this evening, they can take the opportunity to do so. And if not, I'll look
How
for...
about, this is Sheila, I would recommend that the planning commission recommend approval. of the modified Z-21-27 for the specific site design use to the already zoned PUD, commercial PUD, onto the city council.
The two findings. Conditions.
Oh, yeah, there are 2 findings and 3 conditions. Nope, there's 12 conditions, excuse me.
Commissioner Tupou, I second that.
Does this actually go to city council, Drew? It does? Okay. I've got a first by Commissioner Commissioner Shield, excuse me. I have a second by Commissioner Tupou. Individual voting, Commissioner Bullock,
Aye.
Commissioner Shield,
Aye.
Commissioner Tupou,
Aye.
Commissioner Mitchell.
Aye.
I'm Commissioner Hanson. I'm an aye as well. Item number 5E passes unanimously, and we'll move that to city council with a recommendation for approval. Again, thank you all for having to stick around a little bit longer than you probably wanted. Yeah, commissioners or staff, is there any additional items or commentary that needs to be brought before this body this evening before we adjourn this meeting? If not, I'll look for a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Ms. Schill, I propose we adjourn this meeting.
This is Bullock, I'll second.
All right, I got a first and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you all again for attending, and we'll see you the next time.